Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to my 3 takeaways episodes from the Marcus Whitney podcast episode this past Monday on the dynamics of entrepreneurship. I hope you guys really loved Marcus. If you haven't listened to the episode yet, you got to go back and listen to it. It's jam-packed with information, education, inspiration, all these good things. It's also a very heavy note-taking episode, especially if you're in entrepreneurship yourself, if you're in business, or if you're just a part of a team. There's so much great information, and you can apply this stuff to your personal life too. Like, there's so many different applications to the different tools and different practices that he talked about during this episode. So if you haven't listened to it yet, make sure you go back and listen to it. If you have, let me know what your favorite part was, what maybe your 3 takeaways were during this episode. And if you haven't rated or reviewed the podcast yet, if you like the episode, like the podcast, please give it a 5-star review wherever you listen to it, Apple Podcast app, Stitcher, iTunes, anything like that. It really helps the podcast get out to more people, and then more people can start using these tools, tips, and inspiration to get closer to their best selves. But let's get right into my 3 takeaways. Number 1 is going to be necessity level. And this comes from right in the beginning of the episode when we talked about Marcus first moving to Nashville, where he had this amazing necessity level and pressure put on him because he was a 22-year-old college dropout. He had a wife at the time. He had 1 kid and another kid on the way, and he had no job. So he moved to Nashville with this immense level of necessity to be able to provide for his family, provide for his wife, provide for his kid and the other one on the way. And so his first goal right away was to get a job. And because of that level of pressure, he got the job the first day that he moved. And I think that a lot of us, we don't need to seek out the pressure in the sense of like having a kid and needing to provide for our family in that sense, but we need to find a way to sometimes put that pressure on ourselves, because that's where we perform at our best. When we have that level of necessity and level of pressure, it automatically narrows our focus onto the most important thing. It's crazy how our brain works like that. Like, if we have a very high pressure level, we start to focus on the most important thing possible instead of thinking about like all these other things that might work. He's like, I got to get a job, whatever it's going to do, I need to make some money. So that level of necessity really helped him out into getting and achieving his first goal. And another thing that I heard from a guy named Edwin Ariave that I interviewed back at the Super Bowl, and he said the same thing, but low pressure equals low performance. But if you put yourself in a high pressure situation, you're much more likely to have high performance because of that level of necessity and that level of focus that it really provides for you. Takeaway number 2 is you survive the mistakes. And this kind of all goes to the idea of that failure is okay because you're going to learn from it. Because I really like the way that he talked about it and described it. He's like, yes, real stuff is on the line, right? If you screw up, you might lose money. People might lose their job, but it's not life or death. Like, there are real life consequences to failure and mistakes and things of this nature, but you're still going to wake up the next morning, right? And you just have to make sure that you're doing things in order to learn from those mistakes and learn from those failures. He's like, don't let the possibility of screwing up or failure hold you back from actually going in and trying something out, because this instant gratification world, we tend to think that success comes instantly, but there's really no pathway to success that doesn't include failure, doesn't include mistakes. So don't let the possibility of mistakes or failure hold you back from whatever it is that you're going to do. Yes, there's going to be real life consequences, but you're going to wake up the next day and just remember that it's going to be okay. You're going to find a way out of it if you're intentional about it. Takeaway number 3 is the objective drives strategy and tactics. I think this might have been actually my favorite takeaway from the entire show. We talked this is when we were talking really about entrepreneurship and really about business, and he talked about certain business goals that they had going from $15,000 to $150,000 of investment. That's a 10x. That's a huge jump. But because it's that big of a jump, they completely had to change their strategies and their tactics in order to make that objective come true. So it's really important to, whenever you are setting your goal, make sure that objective is appropriate for yourself, because that's going to drive the strategy and the action steps that you actually take. Now, I do think it's important, we're talking about 10xing a goal, going from $15,000 to $150,000, and then he even mentioned going from $150 to $1.5 million. I think it's important to think big and to dream big, but you also need to make sure that you believe your goal is possible. If you don't believe the goal is possible, you might start taking action on it, but once you don't see the progress or the success that you're making closer to that goal, you're going to lose all your motivation, because the biggest motivation is seeing progress towards that particular goal. But if it's too big and the progress is too small, you're going to lose that motivation. So make sure, yes, think big, but only in the sense that you actually believe that it's actually attainable and that you can actually reach that. Because whatever objective you're going to set for yourself, that's going to drive the strategy and the tactics and the action steps that you take in order to get there. So again, guys, my 3 takeaways. Number 1 is necessity level. We really need to find a good way to apply pressure to ourselves, because low pressure equals low performance, high pressure, high performance. Find a way to really narrow your focus on the most important thing that there is in order to reach that goal. Number 2 is you survive the mistakes. I really like the way that he talked about this, because everybody can hear failure is okay, but I hate failure, right? I don't want to screw up. I don't want to make mistakes. But when he talked about it like this, like, there are real life consequences, but you are going to wake up the next morning. Just remember that you are going to wake up. It's not life or death. Takeaway number 3 is the objective drives strategy and tactics. Probably my favorite part of this entire show, because it gets really granular and you think about really how to set the objective. Because when you think about how to set the objective, then you reverse engineer the strategy and the tactics. So really make sure that you take a lot of time setting the right objective for yourself, for your team, for your life, for your family, for whatever it is that you're doing, because that's going to determine which action steps you take in order to get there. Hope you guys really enjoyed Marcus's interview. An awesome guy. Make sure you follow him on Instagram at Marcus Whitney. He has got some awesome stuff coming out. I actually just took a martial arts class with him called Hapkido last night, and we had a great time, and he was telling me all the things that he's got going on, some shows. He's got a book in the works, so many great things. Marcus is an awesome guy. Give him a follow. He's definitely going to be someone who will allow you to get closer and closer to your best you.